Zara was one of the most brilliant alien scientists on the planet Zolara, and her mission was clear. She had to study a species that puzzled her for years. Humans, she had heard of them, but had never encountered one in person, so when the Galactic Council captured a human from Earth, Zara was excited and curious to finally begin her study. The human's name was Ethan, and from the moment they met, Zara found him oddly fascinating. He was tall, with messy brown hair and curious blue eyes which contrasted with her own appearance of glowing green skin and large violet eyes, although they were different. There was something about him that made Zara want to understand him more deeply. Zara began her research with Ethan by running tests on his DNA, studying his brainwaves and measuring his physical responses. Ethan wasn't exactly thrilled about being studied, but he had a sense of humor that Zara didn't quite understand at first. She found his jokes confusing, like when he'd say stuff like, "Am I your guinea pig or your new best friend?" But over time, his lightheartedness became something she looked forward to. It was strange to her. Emotions were not something Zara was used to exploring, but somehow Ethan brought out feelings she had never experienced before. He told her stories of Earth, its beautiful places like beaches and its strange food like pizza, and slowly Zara's curiosity about him grew beyond just his biology. One day, Ethan asked Zara if she ever had fun. At first, she didn't even know what he meant. He had to explain to her that fun was something that made people happy, something that wasn't about work or study. Zara had never thought about life that way. Everything she did was for science or the advancement of knowledge, but Ethan's question lingered in her mind. After some convincing, Zara agreed to take a break from her research. Ethan showed her how to play some of Earth's games, like cards and video games, which she found surprisingly entertaining. For the first time in her life, Zara was doing something that wasn't about data or research, and it felt good to just enjoy the moment. As they spent more time together, something shifted in Zara's feelings towards Ethan. She found herself drawn to him in ways she couldn't explain. She liked being around him, not just because he was part of her research, but because he made her feel different, alive. Even when they were doing nothing more than sitting under the stars talking about Earth or Zolara, Zara felt a connection to him that had nothing to do with her mission or science. One evening, as they were watching the stars, Ethan turned to her and asked if she ever wondered what it would be like to live without all her rules and duties as a scientist, to just live for herself. Zara didn't know how to answer at first, but she admitted that ever since meeting him, she had started to think about things she had never thought about before, feelings that weren't part of her structured life. When Ethan leaned in and kissed her, Zara felt a rush of emotions that completely overwhelmed her. It was unlike anything she had experienced before. Her heart raced, her mind spun, and for the first time Zara realized that what she had been feeling all this time was something much more than scientific curiosity. Ethan pulled back and smiled. "That's how humans show affection," he said softly. Zara was stunned, but she knew that something inside her had changed. That kiss opened her up to a whole new world of emotions and sensations, one that she hadn't even known existed. She realized that her study of Ethan had become something more than research. She was beginning to care about him deeply, and that confused her and excited her at the same time. Days turned into weeks, and Zara and Ethan grew closer. Every moment they spent together was filled with laughter and learning, not just about each other's cultures, but about their feelings. Zara had never known what it was like to love someone, but Ethan made her feel things she never thought she was capable of. He showed her that life wasn't just about data and discoveries. Sometimes the most important discoveries were the ones that happened in your heart. Zara began to question everything she had ever known about love, emotions, and her own purpose in life. How could she go back to her old life after experiencing something so powerful, so raw? She had spent her entire life studying other species, but Ethan had made her realize that there was so much more to existence than just facts and figures. One night, as they sat together under the stars, Ethan asked her if she thought she had learned everything she needed to about humans. Zara smiled and shook her head softly. "I've learned a lot, but I think there's still more to discover," she replied. Ethan wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "Good, because I think we're just getting started." And as they sat there together, Zara knew that her journey of discovery was far from over. She had come to Zolara's lab to study a human, but what she found was something far more important. She had discovered love. As Zara and Ethan spent more time together, the bond between them grew stronger, but the closer they became, the more complicated things started to get. Zara, once an emotionless scientist, now found herself deeply connected to a human, a bond that was unheard of on Zolara. The Galactic Council had always believed that emotional attachments weakened logic, and they wouldn't tolerate one of their most brilliant scientists getting emotionally entangled with a subject, especially a human. Zara had always lived by the rules, and breaking them was not something she ever considered. But now, everything was different. One day, as Zara was working in her lab, her mentor and one of the high-ranking council members, Professor Vinter, visited her. He had noticed the shift in Zara's behavior, how she spent more time away from her research and with Ethan. Vinter was not pleased. "Zara, you have always been a dedicated scientist, but lately your focus has strayed," he said, his voice stern and cold. "Your mission was to study the human, not form attachments." Zara felt a chill run down her spine. She knew what he was implying, but she wasn't ready to admit her feelings out loud, especially not to the council. "I am studying him, Professor. I've learned a lot from him about human behavior and emotions. It's all valuable data," she replied, trying to sound confident. Vintor narrowed his eyes. "Emotions? Zara, emotions are dangerous. They cloud judgment. I've seen it happen before. Don't let this human fool you into thinking they are anything more than subjects to be observed." After he left, Zara was torn. She knew what the council expected of her, but her heart was pulling her in another direction. She couldn't deny her feelings for Ethan anymore, but if the council found out, the consequences would be severe. They could take Ethan away, or worse. That night, Zara couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Ethan and what they had shared. She needed to talk to him, but when she went to his quarters, she found him packing. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice trembling. Ethan looked up, his face serious. "I overheard your conversation with the council guy. Zara, I can't stay here if it's going to ruin your life. I've seen how much they control you, and I don't want to be the reason you lose everything." Zara's heart ached. "No, Ethan, you don't understand. It's not about them. I care about you. I've never felt this way before, and I don't want to lose you." Ethan sighed and pulled her into his arms. "Zara, I care about you too. But you're part of something bigger here, and if they find out about us, they'll do whatever it takes to keep you in line. I don't want that for you." Just as they embraced, a loud alarm rang through the lab. Zara's communicator buzzed with an emergency message from the council. "Zara, report to the main chamber." Immediately, Ethan grabbed her hand. "What's going on?" Zara's eyes widened. They know when they reached the main chamber, Professor Vinter was waiting with several armed guards. His face was stern. "Zara, you've violated our code by allowing your emotions to interfere with your mission. You have brought shame to your station, and you've endangered our research. Ethan will be taken back to Earth, and you will face consequences." Zara's mind raced. She couldn't let them take Ethan away. She wouldn't. In that moment, she realized she was no longer just a scientist. She was someone who loved and who would fight for that love. Before Vinter could give the order, Zara stepped forward. "No, I won't let you take him." Vinter raised an eyebrow. "You think you can stop us, Zara? You're just one scientist." But Zara wasn't alone. During her time with Ethan, she had gained insight into human creativity and resourcefulness. She had also secretly developed a plan, a way to escape with Ethan and leave Zolara behind. With a swift movement, Zara activated the hidden device she had been working on in her lab, a teleportation beacon. In an instant, she and Ethan were enveloped in a bright light and disappeared from the chamber, leaving the council in shock. When they reappeared, they found themselves on a remote planet, far from the reach of the Galactic Council. It was a place Zara had discovered during her studies, a hidden world where they could live in peace. Ethan looked around, astonished. "You planned all of this?" Zara nodded, her heart racing. "I couldn't let them take you. I couldn't lose you." Ethan pulled her close, his lips brushing against hers. "You saved me." Zara smiled, feeling the weight of her old life lift off her shoulders. "No, Ethan, you saved me. You showed me that there's more to life than just facts and science. You showed me love." As they stood together under the unfamiliar stars of their new home, Zara realized that her journey of discovery had only just begun. She had set out to study a human, but in the end she had learned more about herself than she ever imagined. Their love, though unexpected and forbidden, was now their greatest strength, and in this new world they would build a life together free from the rules of the council, free to love each other without limits. As Zara and Ethan settled into their new life on the remote planet, things seemed almost too perfect. They had left behind the Galactic Council and the pressures of their old worlds. Every day they explored their surroundings, finding new wonders in the strange land. The trees glowed softly at night, the rivers shimmered like liquid silver, and the sky was a canvas of swirling colors. It was peaceful, quiet, and they finally had the chance to be together without fear. But life in this untouched paradise wasn't without its surprises. One evening, while Zara was examining some of the local plants, Ethan came running toward her, his face pale. "Zara, you need to come see this." Zara's heart skipped a beat. "What happened?" she asked, quickly following him. Ethan led her to a cave they hadn't explored before. Inside, the walls were covered in ancient symbols, glowing softly. At the center of the cave was something unexpected, a massive stone tablet with carvings of beings that looked familiar. Zara's eyes widened. "This is Zolaran writing," she whispered. Ethan frowned. "I thought we were the first to ever come here." Zara shook her head, her mind racing. "No, someone or something was here long before us." Suddenly, a deep voice echoed through the cave. "You are not alone." Both of them turned quickly, their hearts pounding. A tall, shadowy figure stood at the entrance. It looked humanoid, but its eyes glowed an eerie blue, and its skin shimmered like liquid metal. Zara instinctively moved in front of Ethan, protecting him. "Who are you?" Zara demanded. The figure stepped closer, its presence overwhelming. "I am Kalor, the guardian of this world. You are trespassing on sacred ground." Zara felt a chill down her spine. "We didn't know. We're just trying to escape the council." Kalor's gaze shifted to Ethan. "You are human, yet you have bonded with a Zolaran. That is forbidden." Ethan clenched his fists, ready to defend Zara. "I don't care about their rules. We're not going back." Kalor's eyes narrowed. "There are consequences to breaking the laws of the universe. The bond between a Zolaran and a human can disrupt the balance." Zara's heart sank. "What do you mean?" Kalor raised a hand, and suddenly the symbols on the cave walls began to glow brighter. "Your love has set things in motion. Forces you cannot control. The universe will correct itself, one way or another." Ethan stepped forward. "We'll face whatever comes." Together, Kalor's expression softened, and he looked at Zara. "Are you willing to risk everything for him without hesitation?" Zara nodded. "I love him." The guardian was silent for a moment, then he sighed. "Very well. The choice is yours, but know this: there will be a price to pay." With that, Kalor vanished into the shadows, leaving them alone in the cave. Zara and Ethan stood there, holding each other, the weight of the warning hanging over them. They didn't know what was coming, but whatever it was, they knew they would face it together. As they walked out of the cave, the peacefulness of the planet felt different. The air was still, almost too quiet, and as night fell, the stars in the sky seemed to pulse, like they were alive, watching. In the days that followed, strange things started happening. Ethan began to notice changes in himself. His senses sharpened, his reflexes faster, his strength growing. It was as if being bonded to Zara was transforming him, but the changes were unpredictable. One day he accidentally crushed a tool in his hand without meaning to. Another time, his body seemed to glow faintly under the alien sky. Zara was worried. "The bond, it's affecting you." Ethan shrugged, trying to make light of it. "Maybe I'm becoming part Zolaran." But Zara wasn't laughing. She feared what Kalor had warned them about. Their love had defied the laws of the universe, and now the universe was pushing back. One night, as they lay under the stars, Ethan turned to Zara. "No matter what happens, I don't regret any of it. I'd do it all over again for you." Zara smiled, her heart full of love, but also fear. "Me too," but deep down she knew that their love had changed something fundamental in the fabric of reality, and the consequences were only beginning to reveal themselves. The next morning they woke up to a sky that was no longer peaceful. Dark clouds swirled above, and the air crackled with energy. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and Zara knew this was it: the universe was striking back. Suddenly a bright flash lit up the horizon, and Kalor reappeared. "The time has come," he said gravely. "You must choose: sacrifice your bond, or face the destruction of everything around you." Ethan stood tall, gripping Zara's hand. "We won't give up our love." Kalor looked at them with a sadness in his eyes. "Then prepare yourselves." With a deafening roar, the sky split open, and a powerful force surged toward them. But instead of fear, Zara and Ethan held onto each other tightly, ready to face whatever came next. Because in the end, their love was worth any price. And as the storm of energy engulfed them, they felt a strange calm. Their love, defiant and strong, held the universe together for just a moment longer, before everything changed forever. As the powerful energy surrounded Zara and Ethan, they braced themselves, expecting the worst. But instead of being torn apart, they felt a strange warmth. The storm stopped suddenly, freezing in place. Time itself seemed to halt. Zara looked around in confusion. Everything was still, as if the world had been paused. Ethan tightened his grip on her hand. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice echoing in the silence. Zara shook her head. "I don't know, but this isn't what I expected." Out of the frozen air, Kalor reappeared, but this time his expression wasn't cold or stern. He looked almost relieved. "You've done something no one else has ever done," he said slowly. "You've defied not just the Council's rules, but the very laws of the universe, and yet you are still here." Ethan frowned. "What does that mean?" "Are we going to be okay?" Kalor stepped closer. "Your bond is stronger than I realized. The universe has acknowledged it. Instead of tearing you apart, it has bent to your will." He looked at Zara, his glowing eyes flickering. "But there is a cost," as I warned. Zara's heart pounded. "What's the cost?" Kalor sighed deeply. "Your love has created a ripple, a crack in reality itself. You can stay together, but the balance of the universe will shift. Strange things will start happening. Other worlds, other timelines will begin to merge with your reality. You will be hunted by forces that want to restore order." Ethan clenched his jaw. "We don't care. We'll face it." But before Kalor could respond, a deep rumbling shook the ground beneath their feet. The sky, still frozen in that eerie calm, began to tear open. But this time it wasn't just energy or light. It was something far more terrifying. A massive shadow appeared through the tear in the sky, twisting and writhing as it moved closer. It was a creature unlike anything they had ever seen, with eyes as dark as the void, claws as sharp as blades, and a body that seemed to shift between forms. Zara gasped. What is that?" Kalor's face turned grim. "That is the first of many. It's a creature from another timeline, a world where everything is chaos. They've sensed the disturbance and they're coming for you." Ethan stepped in front of Zara, ready to protect her. "We'll fight it. We'll fight all of them." But Kalor shook his head. "You can't defeat them. Not alone." Zara felt a surge of panic. "Then what do we do?" Kalor hesitated, his gaze flickering between them. "There's only one way to fix this. You must travel to the center of the universe, to the place where all timelines converge. There you can restore the balance." Ethan nodded firmly. "We'll go. We'll do whatever it takes." But as the creature from the sky grew closer, snarling and roaring, Zara felt a sinking feeling in her chest. She knew this wasn't going to be easy. Their love had brought them this far, but now they were facing something far bigger than either of them could have imagined. Kalor stepped back, his figure starting to fade. "Good luck," he said softly. "You'll need it." And then, in an instant, time resumed. The storm continued, the ground shook, and the creature lunged at them with terrifying speed. Zara and Ethan barely had time to react before they were running, their hearts pounding in their chests. They didn't know where they were going, but they knew one thing: they couldn't stop now. Their love had already changed the universe, and they would do whatever it took to protect it, no matter the cost. As they ran through the shifting landscape, the sky tearing open with more creatures emerging from the cracks, Zara realized something. She had never felt more alive. Their love wasn't just a bond between two people, it was a force that could shape reality itself. And in that moment, as they faced the chaos together, she knew they were unstoppable. But the real challenge was just beginning. Zara and Ethan kept running through the chaos, the creatures chasing them with terrifying roars. The sky was tearing apart more and more, bringing shadows from other worlds, creatures with glowing eyes, sharp teeth, and strange shapes. But Zara and Ethan didn't stop. They held hands tightly, their hearts beating fast, but they knew they had to reach the center of the universe, the place Kalor had spoken about. It was their only chance to fix what they had started. Suddenly, the ground cracked open beneath them, and they almost fell into a deep, dark pit. Ethan pulled Zara back just in time, his breath heavy. "We're close to the edge," he said. "We have to be careful." But Zara wasn't afraid. She looked at him with a fierce determination. "We've come this far. We can't turn back now." She pointed ahead, where a faint light was glowing in the distance. "That's where we need to go." They started moving again, but the creatures were getting closer, their growls filling the air. Just as one of them lunged at Ethan, Zara raised her hand, and to her surprise, a blast of energy shot out from her palm, knocking the creature back. Ethan stared at her in shock. "How did you do that?" Zara shook her head, equally confused. "I don't know. Maybe it's the bond. Maybe we're stronger together than we realize." She felt a strange power coursing through her veins, something she had never felt before. Ethan grinned, despite the danger around them. "I always knew you were powerful." Zara took a deep breath. "We don't have a choice. We have to fix what we've done." Carlos shook his head. "You don't understand. The bond between you two is what holds everything together now. If you enter the vortex, you risk tearing everything apart." Ethan stepped forward, his voice strong. "We'll take that risk. Our love is stronger than any law, stronger than any rule. We'll face whatever comes." Carlos looked at them for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "Very well. But know this: whatever happens inside, you will not be the same when you come out." Zara glanced at Ethan, fear and excitement mixing in her heart. "Are you ready?" Ethan smiled at her, his eyes full of love. Always they stepped into the vortex, and immediately everything around them exploded into light and sound. It was like they were being pulled apart and put back together at the same time. Zara felt Ethan's hand in hers, and that was the only thing keeping her grounded. She could hear voices, whispers from other worlds, but she pushed them away, focusing on Ethan, on their love. Suddenly, everything went silent. They found themselves standing in a vast, empty space, with stars swirling around them. In the center of the space was a giant, glowing orb. It pulsed with energy, and Zara knew this was the heart of the universe. Ethan stepped closer to the orb, and as he did, it began to glow even brighter. "This is it," he said softly. "We have to make a choice." Zara nodded. "Do we stay together and risk the universe falling apart, or do we sacrifice everything to restore the balance?" Ethan turned to her, his eyes filled with love. "I can't lose you, Zara. Not now. Not ever." Zara felt tears in her eyes. "I love you, Ethan. But if we don't do this, everything we know will be destroyed." Ethan looked at the orb, then back at Zara. "Then let's do it together." They reached out, touching the glowing orb at the same time. As they did, a wave of energy surged through them, and they felt their bond strengthening, becoming something unbreakable. The orb pulsed brighter and brighter until it exploded in a flash of light. When the light faded, they were standing back on the planet, the sky clear, the creatures gone. Everything was peaceful again. Zara looked at Ethan, her heart racing. "We did it." Ethan smiled, pulling her into his arms. "We did. And nothing can break us now." As they stood there, holding each other, they knew their love had changed the universe forever. They had faced the impossible and won, and now they could finally be together, no matter what the future held. As the universe settled around them, the skies clear, and the creatures long gone, Ethan and Zara stood together, holding onto each other as if nothing else mattered. For a moment it felt like they had won. They had faced everything, defied the laws of time, space, and reality, and yet they were still standing, their love stronger than ever. Ethan looked at Zara with a soft smile, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We did it. We saved the universe." Zara, his voice was low, filled with awe and relief, and Zara smiled back, feeling the warmth of his touch, the connection between them buzzing with life. She wanted to believe that everything was perfect now, that they could live their lives in peace, just the two of them. But as the seconds passed, Zara began to feel a strange shift inside her. It started as a flicker, a distant pull deep in her chest, but it quickly grew stronger, more painful. She gasped, clutching her stomach, and Ethan's face fell, his eyes wide with concern. "Zara, what's wrong?" he asked, his voice shaking with fear. She couldn't speak. The pain spread through her body like wildfire, burning through her veins, and she stumbled back, her legs weak beneath her. Ethan caught her before she fell, holding her close, but it felt like her body was being torn apart from the inside. "Ethan," she whispered, but her voice was fading. Tears welled in Ethan's eyes as he held her tighter. No, this can't be happening. "You're going to be fine, Zara. You have to be." His voice broke, panic rising in his chest, but Zara knew something was horribly wrong. She looked up at him, her hand trembling as she touched his face. "Ethan, the bond. It's too much. We weren't supposed to survive this. We broke too many rules. The universe. It's taking me back." Ethan shook his head in denial, his tears falling. "No, I won't let that happen. I'll fight it, Zara. I'll fight for you, for us. I need you. I can't do this without you." His words were desperate, filled with a raw pain she had never seen in him before. Zara's heart shattered at the sight. She had never seen him so vulnerable, so broken. She wanted to stay, to be with him, but she could feel herself slipping away, her body weakening as the universe began to pull her apart. "I love you, Ethan," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I've always loved you, but you have to let me go." Ethan's grip tightened on her, his tears falling faster. "I can't let you go. Please, Zara, please don't leave me." His voice cracked, and Zara felt her own tears falling. She wanted to stay, to hold him forever, but her body was fading, her energy draining away. She kissed him softly, one last time, pouring all of her love into that kiss, hoping it would be enough to stay with him, even if only in spirit. "I'll always be with you," she whispered against his lips. "Even if you can't see me, I'll be here, in your heart." Ethan sobbed, his voice breaking. "Zara, please, I love you, don't go." And with that, Zara's body dissolved into light, her form fading into the air, leaving Ethan alone in the clearing, clutching at the space where she had been. His heart felt like it had been ripped out of his chest, the pain too much to bear. He fell to his knees, his tears soaking the ground beneath him, his heart shattering into a million pieces. He looked up at the sky, his voice a broken whisper. "I love you, Zara, I love you," but there was no answer, only the stillness of the universe that they had fought so hard to save. Ethan was left alone, the weight of the universe on his shoulders, and the love of his life gone forever. As he sat there, the sky darkened, the stars twinkling above him. He could feel her presence in the air, in the wind, in the stars, and though she was gone, he knew that she would always be with him, just as she had promised. But the pain of losing her, the emptiness in his heart, would never leave him. The universe had taken her, and in doing so, it had taken a part of him too. He stood slowly, his legs weak, his heart heavy, but he knew he had to keep going. For her, for their love. Even if she was no longer by his side, he would carry her memory with him forever. And as he looked up at the stars, he whispered her name one last time, his voice filled with love and sorrow. "Zara."